I rarely come back to the right place if someone goes deep enough.
Welcome back to Not My Ghost, Not My Problem. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jen. No one saw them arrive, but suddenly they were there. Two children, alone in a field in 12th century England, speaking a language no one recognized, wearing clothes no one could identify. And their skin was green. Not pale, not sick looking, green. This isn't folklore. This isn't a fairy tale passed down through generations until nobody could trace it back. This was recorded within living memory by two independent, credible medieval historians who both insisted it was real. So grab your lantern, your handful of fava beans, and your courage, because today we're unraveling the story of the Green Children of Woolpit.
Fava beans. Did you ever see Silence of the Lambs?
Not in like so long.
There's a scene where Hannibal Lecter is talking about eating some body part of a person, and he said he had it with fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm just thinking about cannibalism. Thanks, Jen.
Sorry. That's what I needed to put on your mind today, right?
You know what? It's been a rough couple of weeks for me, mental health wise, but now I'm worried about cannibals. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's great. I mean, our president might be a cannibal. Who knows? We're not sure.
And the crazy thing is it's not even, she's not even being hyperbolic.
Could not. I saw something the other day that said the Onion is probably really struggling right now to come up with headlines that are crazier than what the fuck is actually happening in the world. And fair.
Very fair.
The Onion might just start reporting real news at this point because it's fucking wild. Yeah.
You're right.
No, sorry. Just thinking about the state of the world, and I needed a moment to
re-engage.
Re-engage. I am living in hell. We are living in hell.
We all are.
Yeah, it's tough, but that's why we have a podcast to forget about all of the craziness that is going on in the world. Oh, scripted, unscripted banter. Mm-hmm. That's what we're in right now.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
And my brain has been a little bit foggy recently, more than usual. And
I'll steer the ship.
What?
I'll steer the ship.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm in like perimenopause. Because did you know that, I think I told you this, that people with ADHD and autism are more likely to start perimenopause early?
Yeah. I started menopause early.
Yeah. Well, generally, if you start perimenopause early, you probably start menopause early.
Jen.
Kelly.
What's that thing you were diagnosed with?
Autism. I also just said it like
that's right.
2 other times, so you owe a couple drinks.
Oh, kill me.
But anyway.
I saw...
Oh, no, go ahead.
Wait.
Sorry.
I saw something the other day that made me laugh and think of you. This guy said, I'm autistic. Drinks. And I have a friend who swears that they're not. And one day he looked at me and said, you and I were on the same wavelength. And he said, I went, no, but we are on the same spectrum. I think spectrum warrants a drink.
Probably.
And it made me think of you.
Thanks.
And it made me laugh. So I thought I would share it.
All
right, what's our scripted unscripted banter question?
Okay. If multiple credible people witness the same unexplained event, at what point does doubt become belief?
Well, it's kind of iffy for me because if somebody tells me that they experienced something, I tend to always believe that they believe they experienced the thing.
Yes.
So if I've had people telling me, even more than one person that I considered credible, that they witnessed something, I am going to believe that they witnessed that thing.
But at what point do you believe that thing happened?
It depends on how big the claim is.
That's fair.
It would depend on how big the claim is. Like if it was they saw UFOs coming out of the sky and abducting people into air, that's going to take a lot of evidence for me to be like, okay, I think I believe you now.
Okay.
But if it's something smaller, like, oh, we both heard a voice, we both clearly heard someone say, fuck your mother. I don't know, whatever they said.
Please,
That would take a
any of
lot
the
less.
spirits in either my or Kelly's location, if you want to come through on the audio and say fuck your mother, you have my permission.
Yes, you do. So I guess it would depend on how big the claim is.
Okay. That's fair.
How about you?
I mean, for me, I you know me. I feel like no matter who it is, there's always going to be that doubt in the back of my mind unless I personally experience it. And that doesn't say that I don't necessarily believe it, because obviously I believe everything you tell me that happens to you. But there is also this little voice in the back of my head that says, she's full of shit. And none of that actually happened.
That voice in the back is also in the back of my head.
Oh, yeah. Well, it says the same thing to me when I think I experience something.
Right.
It's like, you're full of shit.
The good thing is we have had enough things. You have, like, some of the things that I say, you have been able to verify or yourself.
Yes.
And that helps a lot.
It does.
It
definitely does.
Yeah.
But
like
I
when
think
you said you saw a man in my bathroom at the old house we had,
yeah.
and then you were able to describe that man exactly what I saw. Well, how can I say you didn't see that?
Right. When you never
When you
told me
didn't
what
even
it,
know what that guy looked like.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. I think that definitely is a huge part of it. But again, I think for me, it would be hard to deny, even if there was no evidence, which nowadays would be really hard. Like if, a group of 10 people saw something, the likelihood that none of them had their phone on them to be able to record something of it, even if it's like a blurry, awful video at the very, like, on the tail end of it, is pretty unlikely. But I don't know. I feel like the larger the group that says they experienced it, the more likely I am to believe it.
It also very much depends on, like, if you tell me you experience something, I believe you more than somebody I don't know that said they experienced something. I believe that they experienced something, but I would tend to believe you more because I know you and I know you not to be a liar.
Yeah.
And I also know you to try to actively debunk when we do experience something. And those things are very important in whether I would believe a person or not.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our facts today, they're kind of just random. And some of them may make sense right now, but some of them may not make sense until after I tell you more about the episode topic. Okay, so the first one is, in a lot of folklore, especially Celtic and European, there's a rule. If you eat or drink in another realm, you're bound to it. You see it in fae stories and myths like Persephone. Food isn't just food, it's a contract.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. And I am realizing now that you, just before, you were supposed to be wearing a shirt that said Persephone, which is very ironic, but then you spilled wine on it and had to change.
It said, Lilith didn't kneel, Persephone didn't ask, and Medusa didn't forgive, and neither shall we. And then I spilled red wine all over myself.
She did.
And that shirt is now currently in the washer.
Yes. Okay, my next fact. Today, green means nature and life. But in medieval
They're
Europe,
leprechauns.
what? Yeah, leprechauns. But in medieval Europe, it also meant decay, illness, and something unnatural. In folklore, green is often tied to the fae, something not quite human, and even carries a reputation of bad luck.
Well, that's so funny because leprechauns are supposed to be good luck, and like
I know.
four-leaf clovers are green, and that's supposed to be. Did I say four-leaf?
I don't know what you said, but I was just going to let it roll.
You all know what I meant.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I meant.
And our last fact is across many cultures, caves are seen as thresholds between worlds, not just physical spaces. In folklore, they lead to the underworld, fairy realms, or places beyond human reality. The idea is simple: go deep enough, and you might not come back to the same place. That's what she said.
Yes, it is.
I rarely come back to the right place if someone goes deep enough. Kelly?
I come
Oh, go ahead. So
back.
I want to hear about how you come.
That's it.
That's it. Just I come. Okay, wine break.
If you go deep enough.
Welcome back from our wine, phone call, lipstick, and talking about witches break.
And possible psychic information
Yes.
about things in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if you want to see what we just talked about, go join our Patreon
At patreon.com/notmyghost,
and it'll be released. I want to say the first of every month, but y'all know I have ADHD.
Whenever
Around
she gets to.
within the first week of every month. Generally.
It'll be released in the month.
Yes, earlier in the month. But anyway, are you ready to dive into the episode?
I am. I got to hear about these green fuckers.
So I had never heard about this before, just like Googling topics. And it completely backfired because I was trying to find something that I could research quickly because I did this yesterday and I forgot that we were recording my episode. So I had to switch topics. Don't worry, the topic I was going to do is just pushed when I have a little bit more time to really dive into it. So I just wanted to find something light and easy to research that wouldn't take me a lot of time. And I spent probably about 6 or 7 hours researching this because I can't even, like, this. I wanted to figure out the best way to organize it, but and just like what to include. So yeah, it took longer than I expected.
When you said you switched topics, I was really hoping we were going to get that Oklahoma octopus episode. But I am really excited about that.
So I did think about finding a cryptid, and I honestly forgot about the Oklahoma octopus, but then I remembered that last week's episode is Fresno Nightcrawlers, and I didn't want to do 2 cryptids back to back. So
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So to understand what happened in Woolpit, you need to first understand the world that those villagers were living in, because 12th century England wasn't a peaceful backdrop for a fairy tale. It was a society under serious stress. So around this time in 1120, King Henry I lost his only legitimate male heir when Prince William drowned in a shipwreck. Henry had one surviving child, his daughter, Matilda. He spent years forcing his court to swear loyalty to her, binding them by oath to honor her claim to the throne, which is giving House of Dragon vibes for those of you who watch. You'll understand. I know you don't. So Henry died in 1135, and then his nephew, Stephen, which I just always assumed Stephen was more of a modern name. I didn't expect to hear anyone.
Bible,
Is it?
I think so, yeah.
Never read the Bible. I don't know. To me, Stephen is I mean, I've read parts of the Bible, but never cover to cover. But Stephen is just a very modern name, so I was
I
kind
have
of
read the
surprised.
Bible cover to cover 3 times, which is how
Why
I
you're an atheist?
became an atheist.
That's fair. I didn't have to read it cover to cover several
I did.
times
I was
because
heavily indoctrinated as a child.
I know. So anyway, his nephew Stephen, weird name, but that's fine, is one of the men who swore that oath to honor Matilda's claim to the throne. But he immediately crossed the channel and crowned himself King of England after King Henry died. 3 weeks, actually. It took him 3 weeks to
Okay.
to do that. So that oath really didn't mean shit.
No.
And what followed was nearly 2 decades of civil war, so brutal that it has been described as the time when Christ and his saints slept. Historians call it the anarchy, and the name fits. Barons chose sides and then switched them. Armies burned estates and stripped the countryside. Ordinary people burned their savings, or burned, that would be terrible, buried their savings in the ground, hoping they'd survive long enough to dig them up. Some didn't, and archaeologists are still finding these hoards today, which
Fascinating.
amazing. Now we're going to come down from the throne room and back into the fields. So because that is where our story lives. So
Oh
Suffolk,
man, but I belong in the throne room. Sorry. I'll shut up now.
So Mike and I are actually watching House of Dragon. I've already seen it, but the next season comes out in the summer and Mike hasn't. So I made him watch it. And we were talking about that the other day on like whether or not we would want to be like king or queen, and then whether or not we would be a good ruler. So yeah,
I think I'd be a benevolent ruler.
Me too. Mike was like, you don't think it would go to your head that you would get too powerful? I'm like, oh, I'm not saying I wouldn't do like stupid shit and take advantage of it, but like ultimately
I care about people.
Right,
Man.
exactly. That's the thing. Like I want to make the world a better place, and I'm not going to be like someone who's going to kill people for no reason. And he's like, oh, so you wouldn't do like off with their heads with anybody? And I was like, there's a handful of people I'd like to do off with their heads, but I'm not queen. But then I was like, it depends.
Unfortunately.
Like, if they were 100% proven guilty, no shadow of a doubt, none of this, like, did they do it? I don't know. There are a handful of crimes that I feel like I would chop your head off for. If you were a PDF file,
Naturally.
if you were unaliving people,
correct.
If you were like hurting kids in any way,
right,
or an animal abuser,
yeah,
I would chop your head off.
I agree. I would feel comfortable living in a kingdom that you ruled.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's saying a lot because I like to be in charge of myself.
I mean, what are you saying? You'd be the hand of the queen.
I would.
You would.
I'd be the advisor.
Yep, you'd be my hand.
My brain just did the Windows power down sound.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get back into the history then while you power back up.
Okay. All right.
So Suffolk sits in the east of England, far from the worst of the fighting. So mostly life went on. Harvest still had to happen. Woolpit was a functioning and connected village about 7 miles east of Bury St. Edmunds, part of one of the most densely populated rural areas in the country. So this was not like some remote place, right? For the time, it had markets, it had a church, it had enough road traffic that strangers that were visiting weren't an unusual thing. And the village's name comes from the Old English wolf pit, which is a pit dug at the edge of fields to trap wolves and protect livestock. They're practical. But in the medieval imagination, a deep hole at the boundary between the village and the forest was also something more, a threshold. a place where the known world ended. For a 12th century peasant, the world wasn't divided into things that could be explained and things that couldn't. It was divided into the familiar and the unknown. And the unknown included spirits, the dead, and whatever lived beneath the earth. Folklore filled every gap that lords and priests couldn't account for. If something strange happened, you reached for the framework you had. Now, one last piece of context before we get into the story. So, during the 12th century, a significant number of Flemish immigrants had settled in eastern England. Weavers, craftsmen, laborers, they were all brought over under royal encouragement. They were foreign, they spoke a different language, they wore different clothes. One such Flemish settlement existed at a village called Fornham St. Martin, just a few miles from Woolpit, on the other side of Riverlark. Remember that for later. Anyway, I don't know where we were, but we're back. Y'all know. We're going to get into, before we get into the story, just a little more context. I'm sorry. But I need to talk about the primary sources. So who recorded this, right? Because this is from the 12th century. So that was a long fucking time ago.
But that's important information.
Yes. So we need to know where we're getting all the information I'm about to give you. Okay. Most medieval folklore doesn't have a source, right? Or it has one so distant from the events that it's effectively useless. That's kind of what folklore is. The Green Children of Woolpit is different. It has two sources, written independently by two credible men. And now I know men, but in this instance, I'm just going to tell you about these guys, okay? I know we don't like them, but they wrote this shit down. So both instances, they were recording something that was real, that was history, right? It wasn't a folklore, it wasn't a story. This was written down as history. So the first person is Ralph of Cogshell. Now, Ralph was a monk and later an abbot of the Cistercian Abbey, which was less than 30 miles from Woolpit. He spent decades contributing to his abbey's chronicle, a record of English affairs stretching back to 1066. His original autographed manuscript still exists today and is currently housed in the British Library. Okay. So this guy's pretty legit. Now, Ralph was not a literary stylist. He was a recorder. He gathered information from visitors to the abbey, from people he knew personally, and from named sources he trusted. Historians who have studied his work described his tone as generally dispassionate, which is a fantastic way to describe someone's tone. That's great. Basically, they're saying that he is neither a sensationalist nor prone to embellishment, right? He wrote the facts. He didn't put any spin on it. He just wrote the facts. For the Green Children, which we're about to get into, he was very specific. He states that he heard the account directly from Sir Richard de Callan himself, who we'll learn about later, but basically he's the man who took the children in, as well as members of that household. This is a named primary witness, personally known to the writer, giving a firsthand account. Okay? So the second historian is William of Newburgh. Now, he is an Augustinian canon in Yorkshire. So his Historia Rerum Angelicarum is considered... I don't know what any of these words mean. They're old religious words. Basically, that's all you need to know. Okay. That's fine. I looked them up when I was researching, and now I've already forgotten what they were. But basically, religious shit. Okay, sums it up. All right. But so his book is considered, whatever, I don't want to say the word again, is considered one of the most valuable historical works on medieval England. Some historians have called him the father of historical criticism, and for good reason. he was very skeptical. In the introduction to his Historia, William publicly criticizes another 12th century writer for the fictitiousness of his accounts, including the legend of King Arthur.
Wait. Are you telling me that we don't know if King Arthur was real or not?
Yeah.
Isn't he the dude with the Knights of the Round Table?
Yeah.
That's all I know. Are you
That's
telling
fair.
me that we don't know that that dude was real?
I don't know if his being a real person / king is disputed, or just how it happened that's disputed. I don't know enough about the topic. Because like he's the one that the sword and the stone, he's the only one that could pull the sword out of the stone, therefore he got to become king. I don't know if it's like,
I mean, that part I get. That part I get. But
Yeah.
like, just is that the part he's talking about?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Google break. So we're back from our Google break. King Arthur it's disputed. No one really knows. But
I
this
did not know
guy,
that.
William, says the guy who wrote it is a fucking liar, and he called him out and said, "No, bitch, that didn't happen."
Okay.
In those exact words, by the way. Nah, bitch, that didn't happen.
Nah, bitch, that didn't happen.
Yes. With a British accent, though.
That's Old English, right?
Exactly. That's where it comes from. It all just circles back around eventually.
Right. History repeats itself, so do language.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so despite all of this, he included the bit about the Green Children. So he states that his account is based on reports from multiple trustworthy sources. He does not dismiss it. He does not frame it as legend. He presents it as something that happened. So we have two writers, different monasteries, different counties, different religious orders, writing independently with no evidence of collaboration, agreeing on the core of the story. Now, there are a couple of details that got like wibbly wobbly, but we'll get into that later. But the core of the story was the same across both accounts. Okay, so now the discovery of the children. So
I can't wait.
It is harvest time. The exact year is
Busy time.
uncertain, somewhere in the mid 12th century, during the reign of King Stephen.
Wait,
What?
they don't have the year that it happened?
They don't have the exact year, no.
Okay.
All they know is it was sometime during the reign of King Stephen.
All right.
Again, these...
King Stephen. I agree, King Stephen sounds weird.
Doesn't it? Thank you.
Yeah.
So what you have to remember is that this wasn't like these people, the two sources didn't talk to the kids themselves, right? Like they heard the story from other sources that they trusted years later after the fact. So the exact year that the kids kind of came into being is questionable. Like no one really knows.
So it's really secondhand account rather than firsthand account information that we're getting.
They wrote down the firsthand accounts.
So it's secondhand accounts.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Okay, so we're in the fields outside of Woolpit. Bunch of workers. They're cutting grain. It's hot, late summer heat. It is the most important time of the harvest.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the word.
That's what we're going
That's
with.
the word she was trying to say the whole time.
Say the other one. So if you want to know what the other, I was gonna make them go to our Patreon page. Okay, if you want to hear me attempt to say that other word, go to our Patreon. So every able body is out there working. It's loud, it's physical, it's relentless. And then someone notices something on the edge of one of the wolf pits. Two children, a boy and a girl, standing together, looking around at a world that clearly means nothing to them. Their clothing is made from an unfamiliar material, cut in a style that no one recognizes. They're speaking, but in a language that no one can identify. They are clearly frightened and clearly trying to communicate. And the weirdest part, their skin is green. As I said in the
They're
introduction, they're
leprechauns.
not sick, they're not pale, they're not sallow. Like, the skin is just fucking green,
They are leprechauns.
as some might assume. So the workers gather around and question the children, as one would if you just saw two random children that were green. More people come around to look, and then the children were kind of handed up the social chain, as anything strange and unusual would be at this time, to the local lord, Sir Richard de Callan. And he takes them in at his manor, about 6 miles outside of Woolpit. Nobody knows who they are, nobody knows where they came from, and nobody really knows what to do with them.
Okay.
At Sir Richard's manor, the household does what any reasonable people would do if two frightened and unintelligible children were to just show up, right? They try to feed them. But it doesn't work. Bread is brought out, the children won't touch it. Meat is offered, nothing. Cheese, fruit, cooked vegetables, all of it refused. This goes on.
Did they try Lucky Charms?
I don't think Lucky Charms existed in the 12th century, Kelly.
That would be the perfect thing to feed a leprechaun. I'm just saying.
It would be. So this goes on for days. The children are visibly starving. They're getting weaker, but they push every dish away. Not out of stubbornness, but out of what appeared to be genuine incomprehension. Whatever they were eating before they arrived in that field wasn't anything like what was being offered to them now. Then someone brings in raw fava beans, freshly picked, still in the stalks.
Did they bring a nice Chianti in?
I don't think they did.
Were they cannibals?
Maybe.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not.
The change is immediate. Both children reach for them. They grab the pods with obvious relief and begin tearing at them. For some time, this is all they will eat. Raw fava beans. Nothing cooked, nothing unfamiliar, just the beans. Eaten the moment that they are given. There are 2 other things this household notices during this introductionary period that are kind of worth noting. So first is their clothes. As I said before, nobody really knew the cut or the material. They weren't really able to identify it. It wasn't wool, it wasn't linen, it wasn't anything that was commonly used in the 12th century. And the cut was unfamiliar too. Nobody could really place it. And the second was their mannerisms. Both children were described as melancholic, not just scared, but deeply sad, weeping, lost. The boy, especially, is noted as sickly from the start, physically frail in the way that goes beyond hunger. And he is more fragile than the girl in every account that was told. So the household didn't have any explanation. The children can't communicate. Whatever they know about where they came from, whatever happened to them in that harvest field, it's locked behind a language barrier that won't be crossed for a long time. All anyone can observe is what is in front of them. 2 children, green, eating nothing but beans, wearing clothes that nobody recognizes, grieving something that nobody can identify.
Are fava beans green?
I don't know.
Because I'm wondering if, like, that is the only thing these kids were able to eat or had access to food-wise. And, like, I've heard
Yes,
that,
they
like,
are
if you
green.
eat, yeah, so if you eat, like, a lot of carrots, your skin can get, like, an orange tint to it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it wasn't that fava beans was most of their diet, and that's why their skin was green, but that doesn't explain why they speak in a different language.
Or have different clothes or anything like that. We'll get into that because we'll talk about the theories.
Okay.
Okay. So the children, they stayed at Sir Richard's manor. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. Slowly and cautiously, they began to eat other foods alongside the beans. It's not a sudden shift, it's a gradual expansion, one small thing at a time until they're eating what everybody else in the household eats. As their diet changes, something visible changes with it. The green color of their skin begins to fade. Not all at once, but incrementally, until eventually it's gone. By the
I
time
used my big brain on that one. In
you
this massive
did,
forehead of mine, I used
yeah.
my big brain.
By the time that they looked like everyone else, they also began to sound like everyone else. Because somewhere in the middle of all of this, they started to learn English. This does take a lot of time, though, long enough for the household to have adjusted to their presence, for the novelty to have worn off, and for them to simply be two unusual children living in a manor in Suffolk. There is one significant event during this period that gets recorded. A decision was made to baptize both of the children into the Christian faith. For 12th century England, this was not optional, right? It's what was expected. It was the correct way to do things. It essentially is an automatic response to taking in two unknown children, right? Whatever they are, wherever they came from, they need to be brought into the church. Unfortunately, the boy does not survive. Some accounts say that he died.
Well, he doesn't survive baptism or being brought into the Christian church. What do you mean?
Some say that he died before he could be baptized. Some say that he died shortly after. So that's debated.
Well, how long did they hold these kids down?
I don't think that the baptism itself killed him.
Prove it didn't.
I mean, I can't, Kelly. I got something in my eyeballs.
I can tell you, when I got baptized way years ago, they should have held me under a little bit longer because it didn't take.
Yeah, same. Okay, so as I had said earlier, the boy was the frailer, more fragile one from the start. He was sickly, he was weaker, he was struggling in a way that went beyond hunger or fear. He never really learned English. He never really was able to explain anything. Whatever he knew, he took it with him. The girl, however, does survive. She adapts, she learns English, and remains in Sir Richard's household for many years as a servant. Ralph of Coggeshall, who is the historian, states that he heard the account directly from Sir Richard himself, notes with obvious disapproval that the girl was considered wanton and impudent in her conduct.
What does that mean?
I'm glad you asked. So, for a 12th century clerical writer, that could mean anything from genuinely promiscuous behavior to simply being too loud or opinionated or too comfortable around men.
Just, being a person.
Yeah. So it's worth noting that this is the only character assessment that we have of her, which was written by a man, which we all know we're not fans of them, about a child who survived extraordinary circumstances, and it has been filtered through decades of retelling. But you're all probably thinking, great, she learned English. Mystery solved. Just ask her where she came from. It's not that simple. So she could tell them where she came from. She could describe it. But what she described didn't make anything make any more sense.
I have a question.
Okay.
Did they not tell them their names?
We get into that.
Okay.
I mean, not the boy.
Okay.
I don't know. But the girl. She said that they came from a place called St. Martin's Land. A land. What are you doing?
Sorry.
This is what I deal with, everyone. Do you see this?
Squirrel.
Yeah. A land where the sun never rose, where light was always like twilight, dim, permanent, neither day nor night. Everything there was green. The people, the land, the vegetation, all of it. Now, it was a Christian land. There were churches, and St. Martin was worshipped above all others. And if you looked across the very wide river from St. Martin's land, you could see another country on the far side, luminous, bright, clearly visible, but separated by water that they had never crossed. She said that her and her brother.
I have a question. I don't remember if it was addressed. Do we know how old they were, like approximately? Did it say?
It wasn't really addressed.
Okay.
Just said kids. So she said that her and her brother had been out tending to their father's flock when everything changed. And this is the moment where the two separate historical accounts diverge. So according to William of Newburgh, the children were in the fields when they heard bells chiming loudly. Bells like the bells of Bury St. Edmund's Abbey. And then, without any further explanation, they found themselves at the wolf pit in Woolpit. No cave, no passage. They heard the bells, and then they were there. Ralph of Cogshell tells it a little differently. In his version, the children follow their cattle into a cave. And inside the cave, they heard the sound of bells, distant and echoing. And they followed it through the darkness for a very long time until they emerged into the blinding sunlight. Ralph's account also includes one detail that Williams does not. When the children first came out of the cave, they tried to go back in, but they were caught before they could. So again, we have two separate accounts. Both were recorded independently, agreeing on St. Martin's land, the twilight, the bells, the field, the father's flock, but they disagreed whether or not there was a cave and whether or not the transition between their world and Woolpit was physical or something else entirely. That discrepancy is not necessarily a flaw in the story. It's one of the most interesting things about it. Two writers working separately, drawing on different sources, landing on the same core account with one significant variation. That variation will matter when we get into the theories. But for now, what the girl left behind is this: a land of perpetual twilight, populated entirely by green people, somewhere on the other side of a cave, or a sound or a threshold that neither she nor anyone else could explain. She came through it once as a child, following bells through the dark, and she never went back. That's everything she ever said about it. Whatever else she knew or remembered or chose not to say stayed with her.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Before we move on, wine break.
Wine break. We are back from our wine break, and we are now going to get into the theories of what the fuck these children are. So now that we have the full account, basically, quick summary, in case for whatever reason you're just tuning in. We have two green children. There's a wolf pit. There's some fava beans. There's a dead boy. The girl survived, and a land of perpetual twilight. And all of this was recorded by two credible medieval sorcerers. Sorcerers.
Medieval sorcerers.
I don't know. I feel like those two words just go really well together. So
they really do, though. I gotta hand it to you. Like, it was like, if you wouldn't have reacted the way you did, I might have just been like, yeah, okay.
Medieval sorcerers, right?
Sure.
Two credible medieval sources who both treated this as fact. But the question is, what actually happened? There's a lot of theories. Some are grounded, some are scientific, and some not so much, which, we love. So we're going to go through them all, what they are, where they came from, and what they get right, and where they kind of fall apart, right? Because that's how theories always are. There are certain things where you hear it and you're like, that's fucking it. And then you're like, oh, wait, I forgot about X, Y, and Z. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I forgot about reality for a sec.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's usually how my theories go. I have a theory. I forgot about reality.
Fair.
Hi, everybody. I don't know how to come back from this wine break, potty break, apparently learning new things about myself break.
Kelly told me something last week while we were recording, and I texted someone telling them to do something. And I then told her at the end of when we were about to sign off that hopefully, something happened. But like, if you know, you
No,
know.
no, no, no. She said, all right, I'll talk to you later. Let me know. And I said, let you know what? And she said, you'll know. And I don't know.
So she asked
So I
me,
asked her about it.
and then I told her, and then she didn't even remember telling me the thing that I told the
Not
person
at
they
all.
had to do, which the person did not do the thing.
But I think it would be an interesting experiment, at least, right?
Yeah.
But that person did not.
Fair. And that's all we're going to say. Anyway, okay, theory number 1. We're going to start with the most skeptical position. What if this whole story was just fucking made up, right?
Yeah.
So the embellishment theory argues that while the chroniclers recorded what they were told in good faith, the story itself had already been distorted through oral transmission before it ever reached them. The story grew, details changed. What started as something explainable became something stranger with each retelling. So, why this theory makes sense is oral transmission is unreliable by nature. We know that, right? The events happened decades before the writer ever recorded them. Details could shift, they could grow, be misremembered. There's just a lot of, loophole or not loopholes. There's just a lot of shit that could go wrong, right?
Right.
But where this falls apart is both accounts were written independently by men of different religious orders in different parts of England, and there was no evidence of collaboration. And they agreed on a lot of specific, unglamorous details. The beans, the clothes, Sir Richard de Callan by name, the boy's death, the girl's survival. The fabricator reaches for the dramatic. They don't independently land on raw fava beans, right? So there's also the credibility of William of Newburgh as a skeptic, right? This is the man who publicly dismissed the Legend of King Arthur as fiction. He was willing to call out other writers for fabricating marvels. The idea that he invented one himself is kind of a hard sell.
Yeah, I agree.
So something happened in Woolpit. The embellishment theory cannot account for all of it.
Okay.
Next, we have that this was just an illness, right? Or some other medical explanation. So this theory basically says that the children's green skin was caused by chlorosis, which is basically hypochromic anemia. And this is a condition that is caused by severe iron deficiency that produces a distinctly greenish tint to the skin, not uncommon in malnourished medieval children. So, modern researchers, including historian John Clark, in a 2006 paper in the journal Folklore, applied this diagnosis retroactively as the most straightforward medical explanation for the children's coloring. So, this makes sense because 2 severely malnourished children exhibiting greenish skin is textbook presentation of iron deficiency. The beans matter too because fava beans are high in iron and folate, which is exactly what chlorosis sufferers need. So the fact that that's what they ate makes sense. And the girl's skin did return to normal as her diet improved. So that detail directly supports some type of dietary explanation. Now, where it falls apart is that chlorosis explains the green skin, but it doesn't explain the unknown language, the unfamiliar clothing, or how two unrecognized children ended up beside a wolf pit in Suffolk with nobody in the surrounding areas reporting them missing. It was a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole picture. Our next theory is that they were lost Flemish children. This theory is that the children were Flemish orphans. What? You're making
Nothing.
a face like you saw something.
Nothing.
Okay. So this theory, that's the screen grab I'm using.
Jen has a habit of when she puts our pictures on the thumbnails on YouTube,
Completely
where she is
false.
just like, it's this beautiful angelic face.
No.
Now listen, it is hard for Jen to not look that way, but she always is always so pretty. And then on the thumbnails, I'm like this.
You are not. Okay.
Forever. Even my daughter said, Jen is a monster for doing that.
I disagree. Out of the 4 times there, as of recording this episode, there have been 4 episodes that I included are like screen grabs of like from the episode of us in them. Something knocking?
I heard that too.
Mm-hmm. So this theory says that the children were Flemish orphans distracted by violence against Flemish settlers in the 12th century England. They were malnourished, speaking only Flemish, and they wandered into the wool pit. This comes from historian Paul Harris, and he proposed this in 1998, identifying Fornham St. Martin, which was a Flemish settlement just miles from Woolpit across the River Lark, as St. Martin's Land. He argued that after the Battle of Fornham in 1173, during which the Flemish settlers in the area were caught up in widespread violence, the children fled into the Thetford Forest, a dense forest canopy that would have created a near permanent twilight, which does match the description of St. Martin's Land. From there, Harris argues that they stumbled through an underground mine that was somehow a passage that eventually brought them out near Woolpit. So this makes sense because it's probably the most complete mundane explanation, right? Flemish would have been unintelligible to Suffolk villagers. The Flemish dress was also distinct. Chlorosis accounts for the green skin. Fornham St. Martin explains St. Martin's Land, and the River Lark, separating Fornham from Woolpit, could be the wide river that the girl described, with England on the other side. But it doesn't fit perfectly. It definitely still falls apart. The timeline is the first problem. Harris's strongest specific evidence is the Battle of Fornham in 1173. So both primary sources place the children's arrival during the reign of King Stephen, who died in 1154, nearly 20 years later. His broader argument about Flemish displacement still holds across the period, but his most concrete anchor is about 20 years off. The second problem is Sir Richard de Callan. So he was an educated nobleman living in a region with a significant Flemish population. The idea that no one in his household recognized the Flemish clothing or the Flemish language is pretty hard to accept. So while this might be the most widely cited rational explanation, to me it doesn't fully close the case. And if you heard those bangings during that theory, Kelly is currently getting haunted, but I refuse to stop because it took us about 40 minutes to just get through that one theory with a lot of behind the scenes bloopers.
She told me I wasn't allowed to interrupt her, which is why I didn't say anything. I just put my hands up.
She put her hands up so everyone could see it wasn't her making the knocking noise.
Yes.
I don't know if the knocking will make it into the episode or if I only put it on play or Patreon. It will probably at least be a blooper. I mean, not a blooper, at least be a reel on social media if it didn't make it into the episode. Because I
I
don't
mean, it
remember.
was real interesting.
It was, but I don't remember what we were talking about when the knocking started. So if it was one of those things that we don't want to put on the episode, then it might just be a clip.
Correct.
Our fourth theory is that the children came from a subterranean civilization, a society of people living beneath the Earth's surface in a world with no direct sunlight. Kelly, I organize these theories from most probable to least probable. So
That sounds like something.
buckle up, bitch.
That sounds like something my mother would think about Joe Biden. But go ahead.
Lizard people. Okay. So the theory is that St. Martin's Land wasn't a nearby village or a forest, but it was literally underground. So this idea draws directly from the girl's own account. She described the land without sun, permanent twilight, green inhabitants, and a cave passage connecting her to the world of ours.
I'm sorry, but it couldn't be twilight without the sun, and it couldn't be green without the sun. That's just science.
But they were green, and she said there was no sun.
She said twilight, like in between day and night, so there was some sun.
That's true.
But you can't be all green. It can't be an all green land without
green,
the sun.
Green. Sorry. I figured I would change the song to green. I don't know. Okay. So let's pair this concept with the broader concept of a hollow earth, which is a theory that has a surprisingly long history and is taken seriously by a surprising amount of historical figures, including John Quincy Adams, the second president of the United States. It was just one name that came up with the theory I thought was interesting. But anyway, the children's arrival from underground has been interpreted as evidence of a civilization existing beneath the surface. This makes sense because the girl's description maps onto a subterranean environment with remarkable consistency, right? There's no sunlight, it's dim, any light is diffused. Now, green vegetation and green people, plausible, I guess, in an environment with no UV exposure, but it does have a cave as a literal point of entry. So I don't know, maybe some sun's getting through. I don't know. But she wasn't describing something metaphorical. She was describing a place physically in the only terms that she had, right? So remember that too. Like when there is that language barrier, how she's describing something might not match 100%, right? There's not always a word for word translation. So she might be using the language that she now understands as English and to describe something that there's really not an English word for.
Mm-hmm.
So where it falls apart is that there is no scientific evidence for a subterranean human civilization, right? The Earth's interior is not habitable by all scientific standards that we know today. What this theory does well is take into account the girl's story, but it does require accepting the existence of something that has never been found, mapped, or documented by anyone before or since. Our next theory, you bitch. Our next theory suggests that the children were actually fae who accidentally crossed into the human world.
Okay, now this I can fuck with.
Okay. So this theory entered mainstream media, not really media, mainstream consciousness, I don't know, in 1850, when folklorist Thomas Keightley included the story in his book, The Fairy Mythology. From that point on, the Green Children became firmly embedded in fairy tradition. So, why this makes sense is the overlap with established fairy lore is striking. In medieval England, green was the color of the fairy world. The half light of St. Martin's Land matches descriptions of the fairy otherworld found independently across Celtic and Anglo Saxon traditions, where there is not a sun or a moon, but only a dim, diffuse luminosity. The cave passage mirrors countless fairy tales in which the boundary between worlds is crossed underground. Even the wide river separating St. Martin's Land from the luminous country beyond maps directly into fairy geography, a boundary between the human world and the other world that cannot easily be crossed. Where it falls apart is the idea that fairies have green skin was not well established in early medieval folklore. Green clad fairies appear more prominently in later centuries. The two chroniclers who recorded the story were Christian clerics, and neither of them interpreted the children as fairy beings, and neither used the language of fairy folklore to describe them. They treated it as an event, not a legend.
It's making me think of that Supernatural episode
Which one? There were so
where,
many.
oh, what was it? Like Dean was like abducted by fairies or something, by the
Oh,
fae.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Sam like asked him like there was like a running theory that you had to like service please the like king of the fairies or something. And Sam, was it Sam? I don't remember if it was Sam or Dean, but one of them looked at the other and was very serious, like, did you please the king of the fairies or something? I don't know. It just made me think of that and it made me laugh.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Okay. The last theory is that the children cross into our world from a parallel reality, a dimension existing alongside ours with different physical conditions accessible through specific points of intersection. So
I
this,
like this theory
me
because
too.
we have a theory of parallel universes
We
already
do.
that a lot of scientists believe.
Yes.
And I like the fact that maybe somehow, personally, I think a lot of our paranormal experiences are a crossing of the universes. But
Like
yes, go on.
Bigfoot.
Ed and I were just talking at dinner the other night about Bigfoot, and he will be coming back for a Bigfoot episode.
I will do a
But
Bigfoot episode in the near future.
Ed and I are not on your side about Bigfoot,
Well, fuck
but we
both
love
of
you
you.
dearly.
Maybe I need a fourth believer on that episode so I have some backup. So this theory draws directly from the girl's account. A land with no sun, permanent twilight, green inhabitants, a river that separates her world from a brighter one beyond. Modern theoretical physics has given this theory a new language. The concept of parallel dimensions and the multiverse theory are now part of mainstream scientific discussion. And
And this is why I like it.
Yes.
Because this is how green can exist without the sun.
Exactly.
Is it another dimension, in another
Where it's
universe,
different.
another timeline, another whatever, physics could act differently.
It's also how Bigfoot can exist, but you know. So some researchers have applied that framework retroactively to the Woolpit account. So why this makes sense, the girl's description, oddly specific for something to invent, right? There's just a lot of really weird specific details if she was just making this shit up. A world with different light conditions would produce different biology, including skin pigmentation. The cave as a portal, the one-way nature of crossing, the children's inability to return. These details fit the mechanics of interdimensional travel more neatly than they fit any of those mundane explanations. But where it falls apart is there is no official scientific evidence that parallel dimensions are physically accessible or that portals between them exist. So while a lot of scientists do believe in the multiverse and parallel universes, there's nothing that proves that we could access them or people could travel between.
Right.
The
I guess I
theory,
get that.
yeah, the theory takes the girl's account completely at face value while requiring us to accept something that has never been observed, measured, or documented. It's compelling because it explains everything. And that's exactly what makes it kind of unbelievable, right? It fits so
Right, because
neatly.
when you think about a parallel universe, like parallel lines do not intersect.
Exactly.
So like parallel dimensions or universes would have to intersect somewhere, but maybe our understanding of them is parallel. But if we're talking about another realm, another universe, maybe that doesn't work in the same way that ours does,
Yeah.
where they can, I don't know, maybe parallel, even the word parallel means something different in another dimension. We don't know. Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of this episode about the children of Woolpit. 900 years later, no explanation fully closes the case. Every theory we covered today has a hole in it. Not one of them fully explains everything. And that's what makes this story one of the most compelling unsolved mysteries of the medieval world. And here is our question for you. If the girl's account is taken completely at face value, so we're just assuming everything she says is true, a land of perpetual twilight, green people, cave passage, bells, blah, 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 which theory do you think best explains where she came from?
If you loved hanging out with us today, please consider leaving us a rating or review.
And go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Not My Ghost Podcast for even more spooky chaos, if it could get any more chaotic.
Want bonus episodes and
Yeah, you
extra
do.
spooky perks?
You do.
You do. Come on, guys.
Come on.
We know you do. Join our ghosty community at patreon.com/notmyghost, not my problem.
And if you've ever encountered green children that appeared out of nowhere, please email us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com and you will hear that story featured on a future episode. All other stories, most likely you'll hear, but you know, we got to vet some of them.
And if you want to actually see us reacting to all of the spooky nonsense
and our beautiful faces,
you can watch us over on YouTube. Go subscribe, drop us a comment, just to let us know we are not screaming into the void.
Because sometimes it feels like we are.
Sometimes it does.
Well, thank you for joining us on this haunting journey through 12th century Suffolk. As you wander through the darkness, keep this in mind.
If it's not your green child,
it's not your problem.
Until next time, stay spooky.
And stay skeptical.